As Nigeria marks her Diamond Jubilee anniversary, this momentous period of nationhood affords us another opportunity to do an honest introspection to find out where mistakes were made from the beginning and how to make amends going forward. Put in another way, Nigeria's journey to nationhood. How far so far? When Nigeria attained independence on the 1st of October in 1960, she operated a constitution authored by the colonial masters in 1954, which established a federal system of government with an elected prime minister and a ceremonial head of state. After independence, Nigeria joined the Commonwealth of Nations, the United Nations. The first major assignment our country's leaders faced was how to unify a people of about 250 linguistic groups, a people very plurally diverse, culturally and religiously, with the Christians in the south and the Muslims predominantly in the northern part of the country. Nigeria became a republic on the 1st of October 1963. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe became the president of the country, although as Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was still more powerful. The regional form of government, which is an offshoot of the federal system of government enshrined in the Constitution, bequeathed to Nigeria by the British colonial masters before they exited governance of the country, led to ethnic competitiveness, educational inequality, and economic imbalance. What was considered the controversial census of between 1962 to 1963 further aggravated issues. It was in an attempt to avoid the ethnic conflict that was imminent that the Midwest region was created in August 1963. However, despite this, the country was segmented into 3 geographical regions, each of which was essentially controlled by an ethnic group. The West by the Yorubas, the East by the Igbos, and the North by the Hausa Fulanis. The regional leaders fought very hard to protect their privileges. The South complained of northern domination, and the North feared that the southern elites was ready to do anything to capture power. These culminated into the first military coup of 1966 that brought Major General Agui Ironsi to power.
I do not think that I should start off with press censorship. But I may impose censorship if it became necessary. My main concern is to restore law and order as soon as possible.
Unfortunately, the military intervention worsened the political situation of the country because the military itself split along ethnic lines. In July 1966, a counter-coup was staged. General Yakubu Gowon took over at the age of 32, becoming the youngest person to rule a country under a military or civilian administration in the world. General Yakubu Gowon's effort to settle the constitutional crisis ending up with the federal military government of Nigeria promulgating a decree dividing the 4 regions into 12 states, including 6 in the north and 3 in the east. This, in the wisdom of General Yakubu Gowon, will break the power of the regions. However, it led to the secession of the 3 states of the eastern region proclaimed on May 30, 1967 by Colonel later General Odumegwu Ojukwu under the name the Republic of Biafra.
You're quite right. It will for us be the price for freedom. Our people here have for a long time been prepared for this eventuality, and I am confident of their readiness. I think that when it does come, But the people on the other side would be surprised as to what they're going to get. But on our side, we too have not been sitting quietly. There has been quite a lot of build-up, and I think what I have here is sufficient to maintain the integrity of Biafra and more.
This was regarded as an act of rebellion by the federal military government of Nigeria under the leadership of General Yakubu Gowon. This led to the civil war that broke out in August 1967 and went on for 3 years, resulting in the death of over 2 million Nigerians.
Yes, it is necessary. I think I have made this point before that if the integrity, corporate existence of this country is threatened, I will use force to maintain it. And I'm afraid the time has come. In fact, what I have done, I've told, in fact, my troops that they are not fighting a total war against an outside enemy. They are only taking police action to crush a rebellion. Therefore, the force that will be used will be just the force necessary to get the job done.
The country was back as one again under General Yakubu Gowon. With the oil boom that came along, he embarked on some development programs to consolidate his reign, promising to return the country to civil rule in 1974, but moved again to 1976. However, General Yakubu Gowon was overthrown in July 1975 by the then Brigadier General, later General Murtala Ramat Mohammed, who initiated many changes in the country. Among those changes were the process of moving the federal capital of Nigeria from Lagos to Abuja, the issue of government inefficiency, and most significantly was his plan to return Nigeria to civil rule.
Fellow Nigerians, events of the past few years have indicated that despite our great human and material resources, the government has not been able to fulfill the legitimate expectations of our people. Nigeria has been left to drift. This situation, if not arrested, would inevitably have resulted in chaos and even bloodshed. In the endeavor to build a strong, united, and virile nation, Nigerians have shed much blood. The thought of further bloodshed, for whatever reasons, must, I'm sure, be revolting to our people. The armed forces, having examined the situation, came to the conclusion that certain changes were inevitable. After the Civil War, the affairs of state, hitherto a collective responsibility, became characterized by a lack of consultation, indecision, indiscipline, and even neglect.
General Murtala Ramat Mohammed was assassinated on Friday, the 6th of February, 1976, during an unsuccessful coup. General Murtala Mohammed was succeeded by General Olusegun Obasanjo, who was the next in rank to him. General Olusegun Obasanjo continued with General Murtala Mohammed's plan to return the country to civilian rule. The first step the administration of General Olusegun Obasanjo took was the promulgation of a new constitution that replaced the British-style parliamentary system to the presidential system of government.
Not intended to impose uniformity across the country in our local government setup, since by definition, local government must be local. In other words, we aim to standardize the functions and financial resources of local governments and therefore their effectiveness for development at local levels. Secondly, the federal military government's guidelines are not meant to be rigid and inflexible rules which must be implemented even where not appropriate. This is why in the proposals for new structures and patterns for local government, as wide a variety as will adequately cater for the diverse needs of our various communities have been prescribed.
5 political parties emerged among the many that registered, again on ethnic lines with the UPN. The parties were the National Party of Nigeria, MPN, the Unity Party of Nigeria, the People's Redemption Party, PRP, the Great Nigerian People's Party, GNPP, and the Nigeria People's Party, NPP. Alhaji Shehu Shagari, who contested the 1979 presidential election under the ticket of the National Party of Nigeria, NPN, narrowly defeated Chief Obafemi Awolowo of the Unity Party of Nigeria to become the first democratically elected civilian president of Nigeria.
I, Sheikh Usman Aliyu Shagari, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful, that I will bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will discharge my duties to the best of my ability, faithfully, and in accordance with the Constitution.
However, the result of the 1979 presidential election was fiercely contested in court, which gave rise to the famous two-thirds majority votes. That was the first time that an election result had to be decided by the involvement of the courts, which have become very popular these days. President Shehu Shagari won in the 1983 election in what's introduced landslide margin of victory into the lexicon of our politics. This was, however, attributed to gross voting irregularities, which triggered off a political crisis with violence that threatens to bring down the administration of President Shehu Shagari. Again, the military struck with a coup on December 31, 1983, which brought General Muhammadu Buhari to power. General Muhammadu Buhari's regime declared war against indiscipline. Why? Which resulted in the arrest, detention, and imprisonment of many politicians considered to have corruptly enriched themselves through government resources. Some journalists were also jailed.
Nigerian armed forces fulfilled their promise to end 13 years of military rule in 1979 when they voluntarily handed over the reins of power to the civilians. The essentials of good government as seen by the people of this country were contained in the provisions of the suspended 1979 Constitution, particularly Chapter 11 thereof, which relates to the fundamental objectives and the directive principles of state policy. However, the Nigerian people watched helplessly while over the succeeding 4-year period of the first term of the defunct administration, most of government of the Federation failed to provide even the minimum of good government. The otherwise born economy of the first 2 fiscal years, 1979-1980 and 1980, was allowed to run down through mismanagement. Not only was there an inadequate response to the global recession caused by the worldwide oil glut and the oil production crisis which beset OPEC member countries, but measures designed to curb Nigeria's vulnerability to the vagaries of oil market were applied in half-hearted manner. The monetary and fiscal measures introduced under Economic Stabilization Act 1982 to boost local production of goods, improve foreign exchange reserves, and make the economy more self-sufficient and self-reliant were not implemented in a manner in which they could have the desired effect.
General Ibrahim Babangida assumed power in what was called a bloodless coup in August 1985. He released political detainees and promised that public opinion would influence his decisions and those of the Supreme Military Council, the apex governing body in Nigeria at the time. General Ibrahim Babangida announced a transition program which he extended to 1993. He created two political parties, the Social Democratic Party SDP and the National Republican Convention NRC. General Ibrahim Babangida modified the constitution through the Constituent Assembly, and elections were held that produced local government councillors, state governors and legislators. The 1993 presidential election contested between Chief MKO Abiola under the ticket of the SDP and Alhaji Bashiru Tofa of the NRC, considered the freest and fairest election ever in Nigeria, believed to have been won by Chief MKO Abiola but annulled by President Ibrahim Babangida, sparked up violence and disturbances across the country.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
It is incredible. In view of all this, I find the conclusion unfortunate but inescapable that the federal military government is guilty of bad faith, pure and simple. No one has accused me of any offense against any known electoral law or regulation. The people of this country went to polls on Saturday, June 12, 1993, and without let or hindrance chose me as their president. Didn't they? Yes.
This gave rise to the institution of the interim government led by Chief Ernest Shonekan. Chief Shonekan was overthrown by General Sani Abacha, who was the defense minister under General Ibrahim Babangida.
Many have expressed fears about the apparent return of the military. Many have talked about the concern of the international community. However, under the present circumstances, the survival of our beloved country is far above any other consideration. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must therefore solve our problems ourselves. This regime will be firm, humane and decisive. We will not condone nor tolerate any act of indiscipline. Any attempt to test our will be decisively dealt with.
The turning point in the military disengagement from Nigeria's politics came with the sudden death of General Sani Abacha in June 1998, and General Abdulsalami Abubakar replaced him. General Abdulsalami Abubakar freed all political prisoners and detained journalists. The image of the country on the international scale improved tremendously. General Abdulsalami Abubakar set up the machinery for the presidential election in February 1999.
It is, however, our desire to achieve the objectives within the shortest time possible. After all necessary consultations, government has decided that the election of a civilian president will be held in the first quarter of 1999. The new elected president will be sworn into office on the 29th of May, 1999.
Which was won by President Olusegun Obasanjo, who contested under the ticket of the PDP. President Olusegun Obasanjo and his running mates, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, were sworn in on the 29th of May, 1999, and the new constitution was promulgated immediately.
I, Olusegun Obasanjo,
do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
the Constitution
of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
So help me God.
So help me God.
President Olusegun Obasanjo was re-elected for another term of 4 years in 2003. President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua was elected president in the April 2007 presidential election. The National Assembly voted to have Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who was vice president under President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, to assume full power and serve as the acting president until he gets well from a long period of ailment. But he never fully recovered until he died on the 5th of May 2010. President Goodluck Jonathan was sworn in as the president the following day on the 6th of May 2010. President Goodluck Jonathan completed the 4-year term of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and won another 4-year term in the 2011 presidential election, scoring 59% of the votes to beat President Muhammadu Buhari, who got 32% of the votes. Among the 14 candidates that contested the March 28, 2015 presidential elections, the real contest was between President Goodluck Jonathan and President Muhammadu Buhari, who won, creating history as the first person to defeat an incumbent. This performance came after 3 previous attempts by President Muhammadu Buhari on different political platforms until the APC was formed. President Muhammadu Buhari's inauguration in his first term was on the 29th of May 2015. Despite the many challenges President Muhammadu Buhari's administration faced from 2015, the declining oil revenue, which led to Nigeria's first recession in 25 years, and insecurity problems, aggravated by the Boko Haram insurgency and his health challenges, President Muhammadu Buhari bounced back in a big way to win a second 4-year term in office in the 2019 presidential election, beating Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of the PDP to the second position in a very closely contested election. President Muhammadu Buhari got 56%, while Alhaji Atiku Abubakar scored 41% of the votes. A critical analysis of the trajectory of Nigeria's political revolution since our independence 60 years ago will see that the amalgamation of the country in 1914, which fueled ethnic hate instead of healthy competitiveness, is still very much with us. The problem of leadership, which can be traced to the hunger of power among our leaders in the First Republic, is one of the greatest problems hindering the success of our democracy. Irregularities in elections that have led to violence with loss of lives and property have always marked our elections. President Muhammadu Buhari himself lost elections 3 times and sought judicial intervention. When will our votes start counting? Why must we always end matters of election at the courts with judicial settlements? The security agencies, the Independent National Electoral Commission, the media and politicians themselves must be ready to play the game by the rules without fear or favor. Over-bloated voters list still having names of dead people, vote buying with which politicians are buying the conscience of hapless Nigerians. Remember that the rich person in the midst of poverty cannot sleep comfortably. Things have gotten so bad that it took the US, the UK and the EU to issue a visa ban threat to our politicians on election rigging, which has become endemic in our political culture. The civil war, which resulted in the death of over 2 million Nigerians, was avoidable but for the ego problem among Nigerian elites. 50 years after the Civil War, 60 years into a new decade, it's time to reset the way we have been doing things since independence. Our constitution must be amended so that we can also quickly begin to get our act together and graduate from developing to developed country. In our steady march to nationhood, a united, indissoluble country where ethno-religious harmony is further strengthened and guarded jealously by all of us. The theme for the celebration of Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee Anniversary, Together as One, puts it most aptly together. Happy Independence, Nigeria.